All right, welcome back to another session in math. So today you've actually been employed. Your resume liked your employer liked your resume. You managed to use a proper email address, so they actually bothered reading it. So after your first couple of shifts at the local coffee shop, you want to find out how much you've earned. And if they were generous and paid you $9.75 an hour, and you did two shifts at $6.75 hours, and we want to find out how much you earn. So our first step is to assign a variable here. So let's go give ourselves E for earnings. So we're going to say E equals, well, we know we had two shifts, and each shift was 6.75 hours long. And everything we're going to do is multiplication. And then similar to what we've done before where we had unit conversions and rates, our rate here, we want to make sure that we have the money on top. We're going to go $9.75 per one hour. And we'll see that 2 times 6.75 gives us $13.50. Times $9.75 per hour. And we can check and see that our hours cancel because this is in fact over 1. They multiply, same units reduce. We're left with money, which is perfect because our earnings, of course, are in dollars. So we're good there. And then we get out our trusty calculator. Make sure that you're using your decimals correctly. As we see an error here often, so we should go 13.5 times 9.75, and after your first two shifts you have earned $131.63. On your calculator you'll see that it's 131.625, but money has two decimal places, so we're always going to round to a second place, and a 5 means we round the 2 up to a 3. So there we go. We can look at another situation though where instead of an hourly wage, you know how much money you've made, say, in a month or a year, and you want to find out what your wage either for the month was or per an hour. So we'll flip over there and look at the next scenario. So Ryan, working as a heavy-duty mechanic, has earned $5,230.80 a month, and he works an average 37.5 hours a week. Somewhat unrealistic for something like a trades industry, but whatever. And we want to find out what his pay rate is. So this should be right there. So again, first thing we need to do is to figure out a variable. So let's call it wage, or in this case, W. And our first step is to say, well, there's our variable. We don't know what it is. Well, let's assume 4 weeks per 1 month. And if we were to look on the calendar, we'd find this is probably pretty close. So we can make this assumption. This will sort of help frame where we're at. So once we've made our assumption that we have 4 weeks in a month, we can then go and do a little bit of math. So our first step is to take the 52, 30, and 80, and then we want to divide it by the number of weeks. So we're going to say, okay, let's say 4 weeks. And this will tell us how much he makes in a week, because usually it'll be easier to calculate an hourly rate per week. And if we take that amount, again, make sure you're using your decimals correctly here. 5230.8 divided by 4. So in 1 week, he roughly makes $1,300 and 70 cents per 1 week. But we want to find out what he makes per hour. So in this case, we now need to take this amount and divide it by the hours. So this is going to mean 1307.70 times 1 week. 1 week over here divided by 37.5 hours. And again, take our calculator. If you leave the value on the calculator from previously where we found this 1307.70 and then just divide it by 37.5, you don't actually have to risk making another error. So he earns $34.87 per hour. That's a pretty decent wage. And this works too. You can do this for a year. Say if you wanted to find out how many hours you worked in a year and you had a salary, you could take it and divide it by the number of weeks in a year and then figure out how many hours a week he worked, and that would give you your hourly rate.